Hey everybody, how we doing? Haakon Lenzi on the show today. Haakon, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Ve- Very cool to have you. Coming at us from, where are you, down in Manhattan, Brooklyn? Where are you at?
Manhattan, East Harlem, 116th
Oh,
Street.
sweet,
Yeah.
sweet. I was telling you before we started, I grew up down there. I love it down there. I don't miss the traffic though, I'll tell you that much.
I mean, if you never drive, it's fine.
True, if you live in the city, you probably don't have a car. Do you have a car?
No, we do have a car, but we actually, since our kid was born, we haven't been driving a lot. And it's kind of like, are we going to keep it? I don't know. But, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm stuck on the train all the time. That's one of the things that's nice. I used to bike a lot. And when you're on a bike, it's like, no one can stop you. Traffic, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no train delays or whatever. But yeah, we all spend a lot of time stuck underground here.
You just reminded me. I worked in Manhattan in my 20s and in my teens. My dad worked on West 52nd Street, so I would take the train in, and I've seen a couple of bicycle messengers get hit by taxis.
Sure. I mean, I've been into some spills.
Oh, I bet. Yeah,
It happens.
yeah.
Yeah, it
But
happens.
it is 100% the most efficient way to get through New York City.
It is. I mean, it can be a bit of a slog for interborough travel. I used to teach at Brooklyn Clay, and, it was one thing going there, but on the way back, the Manhattan Bridge, you think those bridges are flat when you're in a car, but actually they are at this, pretty steep slope.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to the top, you're ready to go down the other side. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was 22 or something like that, 23. And we were working in New York City. I did wallpaper, so we would do whole buildings of wallpaper, like 50 floors, right? We'd be there for months.
Well,
And my buddy had a motorcycle. It was like I think they call it an enduro. It was like half motorcycle, half dirt bike type thing. And we were on the 59th Street Bridge at 8 o'clock in the morning, just dead stop traffic, right? So he comes pulling up next to the van on his motorcycle and knocks on the window. He goes, "Hey guys, I'll see you when you get there." And he goes over the curb onto the jogging path, and he goes, "Rrr, rrr," and he did a wheelie all the way across the bridge. I was like, "Dude, that's a motor vehicle." I'm like, "You're gonna be in jail by the time you get home tonight."
honestly, man, the bike lanes are so crazy here now because everyone's got these e-bikes. And then even without the
Yes.
e-bikes, people drive their mopeds and stuff in the bike lane. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
you're
that's
supposed
not
to
a
be a
bike.
badass if you're on a motorcycle. Like, get out in traffic. Ride my bike in traffic. Come on,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 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 yeah. I
Uh,
spent a year in Nantucket, and I used to
ah,
watch the tourists. The tourists would come into town, and they would rent the mopeds. I'm like, "You don't know how to ride a moped."
no.
And
Especially on like the cobblestones in Nantucket. I can't
oh
even
my
walk on
god,
those things.
and half of them are pretty intoxicated most of the time. Like every weekend, you just hear an ambulance. I was like, "Moped." So tell me more about yourself. You're married. You have a kid. You have kids. What do you got?
Just one kid. He's about to turn one, April 1st. Our son, Bela, our first
Oh,
son,
very cool.
first boy, first child. Sorry.
Congratulations.
And I'm married. My wife's Sophie Fader. We've been together. This will be our 10th wedding anniversary this summer. And we met
Sweet.
when we were kids, so this is also our 15th year anniversary together. So,
Oh, very cool.
yeah.
You said you also teach. Where do you teach?
I teach all over. At the moment, I'm just teaching at Greenwich House Pottery.
Yes.
One of the things that I've been
Okay.
trying to negotiate since my son was born is when do I teach? It doesn't really pay to teach during the times that I have childcare because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
So I've stepped back a little bit from teaching, just teaching a couple of nights a week at Greenwich House right now. But I've
And
taught
you teach.
at Brooklyn Clay, at the 92nd Street Y, at Gasworks,
Oh, sweet.
um,
Yep.
Teachers College as well, Columbia Teachers College.
Yeah, I want to come down there. I want to go to the Greenwich House. That looks like a fun place to hang out.
It is, yeah. Listen, if you're ever in town, let me know.
Yeah, hell
There's a lot
yeah.
of
I
cool
love.
stuff in the area too. It's like a historic, it's the West Village, so
Yeah.
right outside of Greenwich House is where the freewheeling Bob Dylan picture was taken.
Oh
You know that
yeah. Yep.
picture of the album cover
Yeah.
where they're cool, he's with his girlfriend? That's like
Yeah.
right outside of Greenwich House because he used to live on West 4th Street.
Oh,
So
no kidding.
he has some cool
I've
stuff
been
around there.
trying. I've been trying to get my pots to sell in the Brooklyn area forever. I did. I did a couple years ago. Oh gosh, 15 years ago now. The Brooklyn flea markets.
Oh, okay. How'd that work
Yeah,
out?
It was. I sold out in like a day.
Really?
I went home early. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, I want to do that more, but I've emailed a couple of galleries and sent them some photos down there, and it's hard to find somebody to sell just pots down there. Where do you sell most of your work?
I sell a lot of my work on my website. I do several sales a year, and then I do some in-person sales, usually like pottery tour type things.
Yep.
I do the Hudson Valley Pottery Tour every year, which is really fun. With my friend Doug Peltzman, I'm his guest, and that's a lot of fun.
Nice.
And then I'm doing the Asparagus Valley Pottery Tour this spring. Soon, I gotta finish making pots. I'm gonna be a guest at Steve Earp's house. Stephen Earp? Steve? I don't know. He seems like a cool guy. We just have been talking via email, so.
Very cool. Yeah, I gotta have Doug on the show. He's on my list, Doug Peltzman. If you talk to him, tell him.
I will.
Say,
He's a super cool guy. Yeah, you'll love talking to him.
Yeah, he seems cool. I like him. I love his pots. I love his glaze. I love his forms.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's a badass dude. Where did he go to school?
He went.
Is he a Midwest guy? Where's he from?
He went to New Paltz. So the Pottery Tour, the Hudson Valley Pottery Tour, is a very New Paltz centric event.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the core artists is Anat Shifton. She just retired, but she was one of the head faculty, core faculty. I don't know what the phrase is at New Paltz. And Doug went there for his undergrad, and then he went to Penn State for graduate school.
Gotcha.
And that's when I found his work. Do you know who Stephen Colby is?
That sounds very familiar to me. Yes.
Steve is like a real potter's potter, man. He's a super cool guy. I don't know him particularly well, but if there was like one person who was a major influence on me in my early pottery time, it was him. And he was like a big blogger. He had a really cool blog in the 2000s. And he went to Penn State, and when he visited, he met Doug Peltzman, and he wrote this blog post of like, people, if you don't know this guy, his work is amazing. Check out this guy, Doug Peltzman. Oh, okay.
No kidding.
And
Is
then
that
part of the show where it's like you take a shot every time I say Doug Peltzman.
Deal. Cheers. Oh my God, we'd be hammered.
Yeah.
That's like John Gill. I think I've mentioned John Gill on pretty much every show.
Oh, sure.
I love John. Colby, is that Colby? Stephen Colby? I'll have to look him up.
Colby. He's out in Colorado.
Actually, on the show, speaking of Penn State, I had Wes Brown a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you know Wes?
Nice. I don't know him personally, but I love his work. Super cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I met him actually at Alfred. I watched him do a demo at Alfred. And I was like, I love this dude. It was him and, gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. Jadunath. Jadunath does those really cool hand-built pots. It was funny because Peter Jadunath, if I'm saying his name right, probably not, he doesn't talk much, but Wes does. So, like,
sure.
You know, they fed off each other really nicely. But
nice.
Yeah, Wes is teaching at Penn State now.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, it's good for him.
Is Steely still there?
I don't know. Actually, he might be the department head.
Yeah, I don't know if he retired or what. He's a really nice guy, also.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I saw him do a demo at Alfred too. That was really cool.
Cool.
You know
what did he make?
A jar. But you know what he did? That was really cool. He is he the one that makes it? I think it's him. He makes the pots on his CAD program.
No, I mean not that I know of. You might be thinking of Mark Ferris.
Yes, Mark Ferris. Thank you very much.
Ferris.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Makes them on a CAD program and then unfolds it and then cuts them into like.
Oh yeah.
And then that's genius.
Sure.
You know, and I'm like, of course, I was like, well, now I have to try that.
Sure.
So
So
I went home.
Have you done that? You
I went home and got like a basic
Uh-huh.
CAD program. No CAD programs are basic for me.
Yeah, sure. I kind of stop at right clicking. That's sort of my logical as I really get, honestly. But
yeah, if I have to right click, forget it.
Sure.
That's funny.
That's super cool, man. I love Mark Ferris's work. He's probably one of my favorite potters. I've owned 2 of his pots, but I currently only have 1, thanks to my cat Figgy. And it's tough, you know. New York City, like there are people that sell pots. You know, there are like these like clothing boutiques and stuff like that. But it's sort of like the Brooklyn, whatever you want to call it, the Brooklyn pottery scene, which is
Yep.
kind of its own different thing from the rest of the ceramic scene in the country. And so
Okay.
I had a friend. I think I had a friend at Ensika, and I was like, "Look, I've been trying to get. Oh no, you know what? I think he had a show at the Northern Clay Center, and when it came up, we bought a cup like the moment it went live. That's it. The
Sure.
first cup I
Yeah.
got was the one in Sika that I went to, and it was like I'm gonna spend $90 on this cup, and it's worth it.
I do lots of swaps here. Hold on, let me show you my cup. I got a cup today from a girl who was on the show a few weeks ago. Becky Manili. Her name is Hawthorne Ceramics.
Oh yeah. I love her work.
Yeah,
I didn't know her name, but I follow her on Instagram. Really cool.
Yeah, Hawthorne Ceramics. Yeah,
What is that?
just
Like code
really
2 or
cool.
something?
I'm sorry.
You know what the temp is on that?
That is, I think she goes to 6 for her final
Oh yeah.
firing.
Nice. Cool.
Isn't that cool? You know what she
Yeah.
does, which she told me, which is cool. So she does like water etching here,
Yeah.
but she does it with. She takes these postal packages
Oh, cool. Yeah,
and
yeah.
cuts them because they're reusable, and then she sticks
Yeah,
them to the
sure.
pot instead of using wax.
That's
I was
really
like,
interesting.
that's
Cool.
brilliant because for
I like
me, my clay is super groggy. This is Alfred's Junior Tile Red.
Ah, cool.
That's super groggy. So every time I try like a water etching, it doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
It just rubs it right off. But I finally got the recipe of this the other day.
But
Pretty
I
excited.
don't know.
to
I
put it.
mean, the water etching with groggy clay can be really fun because you have that smooth surface and then you have that really organic, rocky, sharp, stony bit that's exposed.
Yeah. See, that's the teacher in you.
Yeah.
You're like,
I
let's
also
play with it.
I don't do it anymore, but for a long time everything I did was water etched. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, you take for granted certain materials. Like, I don't know what your preferred wax resist is, but I'm a
Yep.
really big Forbes wax guy, like
Uh-huh.
FORBES. It's
Yep.
the wax resist. It's the wax they put on apples. You know how they
Oh.
put wax on apples? Anyway,
Yep.
it's great. It's the best wax I've ever used. It's terrible for water etching. And I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, here, use my wax resist, blah blah blah. And man, she is an incredible painter. Man, what's Erin's last name? She's someone you should have on the show. She's a great potter actually.
Mhm.
But she did these really cool, intricate paintings. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna bring it in undiluted this time. And she did it again and totally washed away. And but I guess when I thought back on it, I must have been using Laguna wax because that was like the shop wax that they sold at Alfred, I guess.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
Chris
that worked really
Long.
well.
Do you know Chris Long? He was on the show a couple of weeks ago. I have one of his mugs, but it's upstairs. He uses Gulf wax.
Oh, okay.
So this is a really cool idea, but it comes in like these bars.
Oh, and
You know what I mean? You got to melt it. So I'm like,
Is it
I'm going to try
flammable?
that.
It's not
Of
like
course-
paraffin wax, is it? Is it flammable?
Yeah, no, it is paraffin wax. Yep,
Oh, so be
highly
careful, you
refined
burn-
paraffin.
Yeah, just so you know, you could burn your studio down with that. It combusts.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. That was
Well,
like
go ahead,
that's
leave
why
that on the shelf.
that's actually why that's why people started using wax resist was because like in the 80s like people's studios were burning down because the paraffin wax was combusting.
That is too funny. Look,
Yeah.
flammable if overheated.
Yeah, because you leave it on an electric thing and you're like okay, and then you forget, you go make lunch or whatever, and then you come back and it's a fire. Yeah.
Dude, see, this is the universe put us together just to make sure
Yes.
I didn't burn my
There we
studio
go.
down.
Yeah.
Right? So I wanted to try some of that because of how groggy my clay body is. I'm like, well, let me try some of this. It's a little thicker, it might work. But yeah, I mean, water etching was
shellac works pretty well.
shellac's fun.
Yeah, stinky though.
Shellac gives you a nice buzz too.
Yeah, exactly.
Shellac, you're like, whoa. There was a guy many years ago on the cover of Ceramics Monthly. Gosh, he's a wax resist guy. You don't see him a lot though. And he does like he'll do water etching, and then he'll go around and line around all his water etching with black, and then
Okay.
go over it again with wax, and then wipe it away again. So each thing is like outlined. It's really cool. Darn it! I'll text you his name.
Are they drawings or are they more like pattern based? I think I know what
It's
you're talking
pattern
about.
based.
Yeah.
it's-
Low fire guy. runny glaze over top, maybe.
Yes,
I
it's
can't
like
beat glaze.
orange.
Yeah.
That's gonna
I think I
drive
know
me
what you're talking
nuts.
about.
But I'm always talking about how potters are so giving to other potters. This was a long time ago, and I messaged him, "Hey man, how do you do that?" And he just said, "Hey, this is exactly how I do it. I do it just like this."
Sure.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Thanks, man." Yeah, he didn't know me from Adam.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the fun part of potters. Just my good buddy. Do you know Matt Hiller?
No, I don't think so.
He
Maybe I know
went
his
to
work.
Alpha. Yeah, he lives up in Alaska. If you don't know his pots, check them out, man. They're like,
Cool.
I make fun of them because they're so good. I said, your pots are bordering on rude because they're perfect.
Uh-huh.
But what's funny, what he says is, he's like, yeah, he goes, that's kind of the one thing I don't like about my work. He said, I love the freeness in your work,
Sure.
which is like,
I
oh,
know
really?
I can relate to that in a way. I do like the pots that I really gravitate towards and the ones that I often buy are the looser, more expressive pots. And
Yeah,
I do have that side to me, like, every now and then I let the gnar out and make some gnarly pots.
love it.
But,
Yep.
I don't know, I'm just a little bit too anal retentive and perfectionist. And, it's tough when you're in one mindset to switch, like trying to make loose pots again. It's one of those things where you got to just commit to it and really make a lot of work like that, just to be in the
Yeah,
vibe. Otherwise, it could feel sort of contrived. You know who
yeah.
makes, I think, like my favorite balance of super expressive, loose, but also just like technically wild style is my buddy David Swenson. Do you know his work?
Oh yeah, Swen.
Swen, yeah, my friend Swen. Yeah, he is the. I have a couple of his right here.
I got one.
He
I
is
have
like
one of his too.
has the best brush work of
Oh, it's
anyone in North
unbelievable.
America. It's unbelievable. And then it's also like the throwing is so loose. It's like I don't even know how he pulls it off. He's amazing. You know.
You know,
I
him and
say.
I went to Pentaculum together at Aramont.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, which Pentaculum is awesome. If you haven't been, or have you been to Aramont?
That's I have been to Aramont, and it was amazing. I was a kid.
Yep.
I applied for a grant to go, and I took. Do you know Victoria Christian?
No.
I took a workshop with her in maybe 2009, and it was right before my senior year of college. And you know what? It was one of the most formative experiences I ever had. It was so amazing. She's incredible, such a cool person. I loved her work, so open and generous. And it was, how do I put this? Like, we live in this time where everything is everything. And,
Hmm.
you just type into Google and you find stuff out. And, like, now, like, I mean, even, like, the level of effect glazes that they sell on the internet now, like, you can buy a gloop glaze, you can buy this glaze. But she was one of the first people I saw to really use very colorful slips.
Hmm.
And coming from a time where it was like, there was a lot of brown
Yeah.
in the late 90s, early 2000s. And
Uh,
it just like totally revolutionized my work. And the other side of that is there were a bunch of other people in that workshop who were my age. We were all like, whatever, 21. And they're all great ceramists now. Like my friend Willie Zuckerman, who teaches at New Paltz. We were
yep.
just kids. And so it's been cool
That's pretty cool.
seeing that connection and seeing them pop back up in the field and reconnecting with people. But
Yeah.
so
It's fun to know.
is that it's like almost like a little residency where you
Yes.
guys get together and have a sort of jam session for a weekend or something like that. Is
Yep. Yep.
yeah. That sounds
And
really cool.
if you remember the studios, the place is huge.
Yeah.
And it's like there was like 16 potters. But what was really cool is there's like 16 potters. There's 10 fabric artists. There's metal workers, wood turners, furniture builders, people making clothing,
Cool.
and everyone's there at the same time. So like when you went to lunch and dinner, it was amazing. Like you just
Sure.
chatting
And the
with the
food is so
crew.
good.
Yeah, what
Very
one
good
guy
cooking.
said. He goes, you know what the best part of an invitational is? I said, what's that? He said, nobody's a dick. But
I
anyway,
mean, about that.
Swen was my table mate, so we both got
Oh,
a
amazing.
table.
Yeah.
And I told him that day, I said, dude, I can talk to you forever. He's a
Oh,
nice
he's the
guy.
best. Yeah, he's a super
He
cool
calls
guy.
himself a turtle.
A turtle?
Yeah, because
Is that what you said?
he talks very slowly.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Very,
But
very.
but
He's
I
got a
told him,
real even,
yeah.
even keel. Yeah,
And I told him that. I said, I appreciate that in you. Like a lot of people just like, yeah, they sprout out this answer, myself
yeah.
included,
Me.
probably. Yeah. And he absorbs it, thinks about it, and then gives
Sure.
you a well thought out answer.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
No,
like a
Sven is a
conversation.
good friend of mine and someone I really look up to a lot. He transferred in to Alfred when I was doing my undergrad there, and he was in the grade above me. And I mean, there are other people I could say this about also that I was there at the same time with, but
Yep.
he was just one of those people who he just had it. I mean, he had done a lot of work before he got there in a way that was really smart. He had
Yep.
done a lot of community ceramics classes, and I think was at a community college, and was a little bit older. And I remember just like it was sort of like everyone was just kind of trying to keep up with this guy. He was like a ninja. You had no idea that this guy was pulling together,
Oh,
and I
that's
just learned a
hilarious.
lot, through osmosis with him. And
He was like a ninja. I
he was,
can't wait to
yeah,
tell him.
really, just like a ninja. I mean, we had a lot. He also like taught me. We used to do soda firings, and he would taught me about like he had his special course, so he called a ninja course, where like you could
Yeah.
do one course that was just all bricks, horizontal or sorry, vertical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, but he was such a fun guy. Still is a fun
That's too
guy.
funny.
Fun guy.
He was
Yeah,
actually supposed to be on the show last week, but he's got a couple of things going on, a couple of shows going on, and
he's moving and grooving, man. He's moving and
yeah, and he
grooving.
was
Yeah,
like, "I'm
he's doing a lot
sorry,
of
man."
stuff.
I said, Swen, no worries at all, dude. This is all about you guys. I want you guys to be comfortable,
Sure.
right? And
And
if
his
you can't
partner
make it, that's
Alexis, she makes really
so.
good
Oh
pots.
yeah,
Also, do you know her work? Yeah, she makes great pots.
yes, I have one of her jars up on my shelf over there because she was with us at Pentacular. Hold on.
Ah, awesome.
Yeah, they came together, which was really cool. She makes look at this little jar.
Oh, nice.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
cool.
beautiful? Yeah. So, but what you said about Swen's, that was pretty interesting. Is like, like you said, his throwing is very simple and very easy, but it's contrasted with this freaking amazing line work, right?
But it's like it may be simple, but I wouldn't say easy. I don't know a lot of
No,
people who throw like that guy.
no. Yeah,
He's
simple
an
forms, I should say. Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Well,
yeah,
sometimes. I mean, again, it's like all the crazy handling and you know.
yeah.
So he's
But
a
I
hard
like
one
what you
to
said.
keep pops. Yeah,
He's got the best brushwork in the Northeast, Northern
I would say
Hemisphere.
North
I'd say.
America personally. That's
Yeah,
my description.
yeah. No, I might agree with you on that.
Yeah,
It's fun to watch. He brought,
yeah.
what he brought with him actually to Pentaculum? He had a box full of like stencils that were hand painted on newspaper, and you could like go through them. He said, "Take some." So actually, I have a jar up there that I made when I was there, and I just kind of stuck a bunch of like his frogs to the side of it. It came out pretty cool, actually. I don't know, over there somewhere, but yeah, good dude. So, what was your favorite class at Alfred? Did you go in as like? Did you get a BFA in ceramics or?
I did. I got a BFA in ceramics, and it's funny. On the one hand, I did go there to do ceramics. I didn't really understand that I was going to art school. Like I got there and I was like, oh, I'm not going to do ceramics for a year. So I did do
Yeah.
the foundations program. That was maybe like one of my favorite things that I did there, where you just, you make sculptures out of garbage and draw still
Yep.
lifes. The only class I took with John Gill was my drawing class in foundations, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was him and a teacher named Kathy Veda, who was a printmaker. Uh,
Hmm.
well, maybe I don't know how you would describe her work. She did a lot of stuff with Photoshop as well. But they would do cool stuff where we would, they'd like build a scene out of still life, out of a styrofoam, and then we would draw that for a week. And then he'd come in and he'd throw fabric all over it. And he's like, okay, now you're going to draw the fabric over the still life. And then they would have us take photographs of it and put it into Photoshop and make it into something. And then we had to draw. The next week, we'd have to draw over the Photoshop drawings, like IRL in real life. Super
Oh, wow.
cool. Really fun. And then the other thing that was really big for me was there was a sort of color theory class. And if you could believe it, I mean, I'm like sort of Mr. Color. I love using colorful stuff all the time. But
Me too.
I didn't have a lot of color sense before that, and the teachers were a professor who's passed away now, this guy Ted Morgan,
Hmm.
and then my printmaking professor, Alex Contino. Sorry, Will Contino. Alex is his son.
Yep.
Um, and that was super formative for me, just because I was really kind of like I just sort of lived in Browntown before that. All my clothes were some shade of brown, and it really just I don't know. Part of it was that the two of them were this like dynamic duo. The other
Hmm.
side of it is that Ted had a really big printmaking background. He was like an Ohio State printmaking guy and was super, super into craftsmanship. And again, another thing that's hard for me to even imagine myself like this, but I really just had never thought about craftsmanship or craft work or skill. And, we had to I would spend like hundreds of hours painting these little color squares, and they had to be perfect and flat and taped off, and if it spilled out, you had to redo it and stuff like that. So that was cool. And then honestly, Will is just someone I worked through, my whole undergrad with, and even did credits with him as a senior. I did love printmaking. He was really, yeah, Will Contino, he's a great artist. It was conversations we had, the feedback gave me was pretty awesome.
Who
And
was the
then I
neon?
think a lot of the education happened outside of class. My roommates, I think my buddy Alex Williams essentially gave me like a private art school experience,
Hmm.
because I had no I was not, how do I say this? When I got to art school, everyone was like the art kid from their school, and
Oh
they all did
yeah.
AP art. I didn't even know AP art was a thing. So I guess I did art in high school. Obviously, I got into art school,
Yep.
but I just really had no background in any of this stuff. And my friend Alex Williams, he really held my hand through the whole thing and gave me a lot of great, just sort of guidelines and frameworks that I think about all the time now, just like
Yeah.
limiting my color palette to 3 colors, or uh, how to use color in a way to make things pop and stuff like that. So
Very cool. Is he? What is he? Is he a Potter, Alex? Or
he is a printmaker and digital media artist, and comic zine man extraordinaire, and now is
cool.
working. He does like what's the word I'm looking for? Digital design. What's the
Hmm.
word I'm looking
Yeah.
for?
Graphic design.
Graphic design. Thank you. Oh my
Yep.
God. He's a graphic designer now.
Did you know Angus Powers when you were there?
I knew Angus. I didn't really do any glass blowing while I was there. I mean, he's like sort of this larger than life person.
He sure is.
And
Yeah.
I do remember, I always, I always have wanted, I saw these tumblers that he made, and they're maybe like the best tumblers I've ever seen in my life. It was like
Yeah.
very sharp, it was sharp cylinder, pretty tall, and it was this cerulean, really powerful sky blue color, and then this
Hmm.
like totally perfect band of yellow at the top.
Hmm.
And I couldn't have afforded them. I don't even know if I don't think he was even selling them. And there was probably a gift to somebody that I saw. But
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, man, one of the things I wish I had in my life.
He's definitely a larger than life character. He's a good buddy of mine. Our kids went to school together, and
Oh, cool.
I knew him when he was in school. Now he's like this superstar. He's head of the glass department. He one time he said, "Dude, you got to come blow glass with me," and I said, "Nope." And he
It's
said,
hot, man. It's too hot for me.
"But I know I would like it." I'm like that.
You've
If
never
that'd
done
be
it before?
no,
You
I
never
was like,
given it off?
I think I would love it, and that might be a problem.
I'll tell you what, man. I don't know if you'll love it, because it's hot.
It's hot.
And
Yeah.
some aspects of it, like, listen, I love firing wood kilns, so I obviously don't mind the heat to some extent. But the thing for me, and maybe this does not describe you, but the thing for me is I'm kind of a control freak. I think control freaks do really well in ceramics,
Hmm.
and so much of glass blowing is you letting someone else do something for you. Like the other person has to put it on the punty and blah blah blah, whatever the
Yeah.
terminology
Yeah.
is. And that
Yeah.
was that kind of communication, that relationship. I even did it. I was like with a good friend, and I'm still friends with him.
But
But
you were like,
it
dude, you
was
did that wrong.
it
Yeah.
was. I mean, I messed his shit up too. I mean, it was just not my
Yeah.
vibe. The vibe's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
my.
no, I agree.
Yeah.
No, I think I am not a control freak, but when it comes to ceramics, like I'm a terra sigillata guy. I don't know if you know my work, but I want to know what's coming out of the kiln. I tried for years to make some glazes, and I just never could control it the way I wanted to, I guess.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure you've had those days where you open the kiln and you go, oh, Jesus, that's not even close to what I wanted it to look like, you know? But now, if I do Terra
Yeah.
Sig, I've been doing these floral things. I paint it, put it in, and heat it up.
Sure. Nice.
I got a liner
Yeah,
glaze.
I do a lot of work with slip, but I also try and keep a lot of stuff with glaze in the mix. And I feel, I guess I'm also lucky in a way that it's been a really long time. Probably been over a decade since I had that experience of, man, I hate this kiln load,
Yeah,
I'm not saying
I'm
every
just,
kiln load is the best one, but I don't know if this makes sense. For a long time when I was trying to find my vibe, I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was that I wanted it to look like. And so then I'd open the kiln and I just had this like impressionistic, dream that I was going after. And it was, similar in a way. I was maybe sort of more of an abstract painter at the time, but I was doing a lot of stuff with slips and glazes and trying to get them to relate to one another. And it was like sometimes the glaze would overshadow, sometimes the slip would overshadow it. And I would say the last decade or so, I've been in this situation where I have something that I'm working on, and every kiln load, I always have something that's like a little test or experiment, and sometimes those shit the bed. But I usually am pretty locked in before I invest in,
yeah,
filling a kiln with something.
yeah.
And of course, at the
Yeah,
time that I changed my glaze recipe slightly, I was like, let me calcine this kaolin. And, I don't need to test it. That's just calcining the kaolin. It's just an application
yeah.
thing. And everything ran off the shelf. And that was, whatever, $3,000
Yeah,
total
I've been
loss.
messing with some cobalt. Like I just like drew lines, and I draw these like flowers into the. I drew them with
Right.
wax resist and then with a needle
Uh-huh.
tool. And then I'm filling that with cobalt. So then this was just like a little test mug, but the blue, I love that cobalt like run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm planning on doing is having like the flowers like this, but with the cobalt as the actual exterior of the flower, if that makes sense. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want it to
yeah.
run.
Sure. Are you using like a cobalt slip or a wash or?
So it's just a wash. It's just cobalt and water.
Oh, you should add some kind of a fluxing agent, like Gersley borate or something like that. It'll make it run actually.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll mess
It'll
with
help
that
make
because
it
I
run.
use
Yeah.
the slip that I use is Metz's Tile 6.
Okay.
It's and I just color that. I have a bucket full right there, so I do that, and I just color that. When I use slip, I use that with just mason stains. So
Sure.
actually,
Yeah.
I made a slip with cobalt the other day, so maybe I'll do that instead.
Yeah. I mean, even the slip, because actually the clay itself has like fluxing agents in it
Yeah.
that'll help the slip melt. Because believe it or not, oxides, they are a flux, but when there's too much of them, they won't melt properly.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Uh-huh.
I'm a lucky guy because I have not mixed up a slip. Believe this or not, I have not mixed up a slip since 2000. Honestly, since like 2010. Since I left college, I haven't mixed slips. I make my own colored slips all the time, but I've just always worked with standard porcelain 257. And you know what? My reclaim is white slip. It's amazing. It's great. And even
Yeah.
there was like a sort of 6-ish year foray I did into earthenware, and my white slip was just I don't have a good reclaim system, so I had enough reclaim left over from the porcelain that I was able to use it for years actually, and then I'd run out of it, and I had an extra box kicking around, and I just slake it down, and they also have a lot of like the slip itself. How do I say this? The 257, it's super plastic. It has a lot of plastic agents in it, like bentonite and stuff like that. So it just sticks really well to everything. Like I've never
Wow.
had any issues with it flaking off of anything. And I cannot say that was the case when I was mixing up from recipes my white slips and stuff like that. So
So your slip is colored reclaim?
it's my porcelain reclaim.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, you can't beat that, you know?
No.
Yeah, that's a win. That's a win. If you
Yeah,
get
that's a
something for
huge win.
free in ceramics, take it.
What do you color it with? Mason stains or?
Yeah, mainly mason stains. Sometimes I use oxides, but kind of like what you were talking about, I've sort of moved away from using the oxides just because I like to have an idea. If I'm using slips, I like to have an idea of what it's going to look like while I'm working with it.
Yeah.
So
Like
you
pretty
kind of
much.
get a little more of that with the mason stains than with the oxides. The other thing is, um, I do, for the most part, if I'm submerging my hands in colored slips and stuff like that, I am wearing gloves. But oxides are just an extra kill you
Yeah. Yeah, I saw
degree.
those pictures you did of your hand like that covered in slip. That was really cool.
Yes, that was my. So I'm not making that work anymore. I used to do it. It will come back. But
Uh-huh.
I used to do a marbleized slip, and that was a sort of. I mean, I don't know. Wow, like probably 8 year foray I did into that. Without a doubt, my most developed body of work. And this agate ware stuff that I'm doing right now, I would say I consider that, like this stuff, I consider that to be part of that world. It's part of the same body of work to me in a way, but it's just a different side of it, like the left and the right side. But
Yeah.
that stuff is like that process for me is very specific and time sensitive. And if the pots aren't the right consistency, either they fall apart or the slip falls off of them. And ever since I had this baby, my life is not there. So it will come
Yeah.
back. But that was a test that I would do. Rather than doing it on my actual work, I would just dip my hand in slip and then use the applicator to get the slip to where I wanted it to be. And when it looked
Yeah.
good, I knew I was ready to put them on my pots. That took me a surprisingly long time to figure out, and it would be like, okay, I just did 20 pots, and now everything is ready to go, and I have 10 more. But yeah,
So show me that agate ware mug again. So is that slips or is that wedged colored clay?
these are all colored clays that I made individually with mason stains, and then you slap them together.
Wedge it together, throw it, and then fasten it.
Exactly, faceted, yeah.
That's very cool. That's bordering on Narikomi, right?
Narikomi
Kind of
is a
like
similar process. That's more where you're layering the clays in a
yeah,
very specific way to make a pattern. This is what it looks like without the faceting.
yeah. See, that's really
Um,
cool too.
there are some people who do some amazing work. There are some people who do some amazing work with Narikomi and wheel throwing. I am not
Yeah.
one of those people.
No, it's
Um,
hard.
It's really challenging. I forget.
Yeah.
I'll send you the video. I can never remember this guy's name, but there's this one dude. He was like a Buddhist monk. He was from Japan, and
Uh,
his work. I mean, he's the most amazing Narikomi artist. I don't know that I ever knew how to pronounce his name, but I'm not going to even try right now. So I'll
I was
follow up
thinking
on
about it.
that one.
I was talking to somebody on the show about this the other day about how, like, social media, we talk about how bad it is for kids, right? Because they see people doing things and they think that's what they should do. And I was saying, I think it's kind of bad for artists too, because I see people making pots and I go, that's friggin' amazing. like, like, like,
Well, I mean,
like, look at that pot.
that
Like,
can be good though because it can inspire you
it's
and sort of up
motivating,
your
yeah.
game. But
Hmm.
I also, I mean, I'm gonna double down and say there definitely are some certainly negative sides for adults and definitely for artists. Like one of the things I think about all the time, I was a pretty active. I don't when at the time I didn't think I was that active, but every now and then someone reminds me about my blog that I used to have in the
Uh-huh.
2010s, and like I wrote a lot and I shared a lot of stuff, but it was nothing compared to the way we have Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, how do I say this? I'm always careful to criticize ceramics because even the most successful of us, I feel like I'm punching down in the scheme of the arts or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is something that is not good about someone being like 21, coming out of undergraduate, their work blows up on social media, and then what do? You're not going to be able to pivot away from that because you get
Yeah.
acumen, you get gallery representation, you get
Yeah.
clients, and now your work is just frozen in your early 20s. And I
Yeah.
mean, on the one hand, I actually think I made some really good work then, maybe better work than
Hmm.
I made for a long time, actually. Uh, but I don't know if that's the best thing for the creative journey of an artist.
Yeah. No,
So
that's a,
mine made
I
some
kind of
criticism
agree with that.
with art.
Yeah, so I mean, I had somebody on the show a few weeks ago, and I said, I was like, I don't want to make the same thing over and over again. Like you may find something that works and something that sells. That's great, right? So make a bunch of those, but also do this, right? Is that what
Sure.
you're?
Well, I mean, I think, how do I say this? I actually think there's a great virtue to making the same thing over and over again. And I honestly, how do I say this? If I could choose, and maybe I would feel differently if this was the reality that I actually lived in. If I could choose to live in a time and be a part of a pottery tradition that was bigger than myself, where I was making work that were forms that, were devised generations ago, and the surfaces were distilled over a very long period of time. I would kind of prefer that, honestly. I think there's a quality to those kind of pots that maybe a person is not going to achieve in their own lifetime, and that's very special, and I don't want to take away from that. But in the world where the potter is in some way related to the art world, or thinking about pots that are functional as an artist, um, I don't know that when you're 20 that everyone is going to be the fully mature artist that they need to be. Even if the case is that you go and you do a lot of different things, and maybe you come all the way back. And that's happened to me a lot in my career, where
Mhm.
like a lot of the work that I'm making, man, I started this, actually these are things that I started 10, 15 years ago, and I didn't really know how to use them or how to do them. I think all this stuff is out because I was photographing stuff, but this work that I'm making with the washes, I mean, I've been making stuff like this off and on probably since I was even an undergrad. This is like the pots I've always wanted to make. But
Yeah.
if I took these glazes and I took these washes and I took these pots and I made them 15 years ago, they wouldn't be the same pots as they are today. You
Hmm.
know, so I don't know
Yeah.
how you can't really quantify that the journey and the
No.
light of being a
Yeah,
person.
and you learn. I think your pots. You learn how to manipulate the clay better as you mess with it. Your pots just get better. That's a big thing on this show. A theme on this show is there's going to be a time that you got to go through making crappy pots,
Sure.
big clunky heavy things that and you learn that's not good, this is good, that's not good, this is good, and you take the this is good, and put that into the next pot. You know what I mean? And then
Mhm.
it just kind of happens. Like my wife's been doing these tiles and stuff, like these kind of fun tiles, and
Cool.
and she really loved it out of the kiln this morning. She's like, oh wow, but that did this, and I said, aha. She goes, I go. Now what you have what you want to mess with is going to take another month, right? Because you got
Sure.
to make them, you got to dry them, you got to decorate them, you got to fire them, and then you go, ooh, that was close. And then you make them and you decorate and you fire and you go, ooh, and then before you know it, a year has gone by and you're still trying to get that one color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I think as young potters, people get disappointed too quickly and they don't hold on and keep coming back to trying that just to get that one thing. You know?
Well, I mean, just also to play devil's advocate, then there are these people who, I don't know, like Hegel or something, the universe nominates them and they just have it like right away. And I definitely saw that. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
people who actually hadn't even really done ceramics, and their first work was just amazing. My friend Sarah Heidemeyer, she's an amazing ceramic artist. And I
Hmm.
remember when we were in undergrad, she came in, I think mainly with a sort of photography and maybe also drawing background. And I remember I didn't actually know her that well at this time, but I just remember walking into the sophomore pottery class, and seeing her work, and I was like, wow, this person
Yeah.
doesn't know how to throw pots yet, but this is the best pot in the room. So there is, I mean, there's that side of it. And then I think the way that I think about making work and technique, because I think that's what you're talking about to a large extent, is technique. My relationship to technique and craft is to get it to the place where it disappears. You know, I don't, I try, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I don't really want my work, I don't want the first thing for people to see when they see my work is, wow, this is really amazing throwing. That's for me in the background. It should just kind of be a given. And it's not something I want to think about necessarily.
Yeah,
I want
interesting.
whatever the content of the pot, whether it's the surface, decoration, the form, the way it relates to the person's body, the way it relates to the function, the way someone's using it. Those are the things that I want to be the main drivers rather than, wow, this is so light. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you do any other? Well, like you're a golfer. Maybe you can relate to that in this sense. But like playing music, for example. I think when people are young or whatever that is, you might start playing. I started playing guitar when I was 30, but one of the first things people want to start to do is to play as fast as you can play. And once you start playing really fast, at a certain point, you need to then dial it back and learn how to play slower. And that's actually the most of the really good music, right? Is you can be much more expressive. You can have a lot more to say, be more soulful.
And
that's
almost
sort of my
technically more
relationship.
difficult.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Right? Like I used to teach skiing, and like you see somebody in a movie, like skiing in a movie, but they're skiing like they're out of control. I'm like, that takes 100% control to act like you're out of control.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? I think I know what you're getting at. I was teaching a kid golf a couple years ago, and he was 15 or 14, and there's a lot of control and patience that comes with experience and time, right? So we were on this hole, and he was 115 yards out, and I said, what are you going to hit? And he said, I'm going to hit a gap wedge. And I said, yeah, that's the right club, but I want you to hit an 8-iron, which is way too much club. Like if he hit it hard, he would go 40 yards over the green. And he was, what do you mean? I said, well, choke down, play it back in your stance, and smooth one in there and keep it under the wind. You know, you should have 4 shots for each club, not just one shot. I'm going to hit this.
Yeah. Sure.
You know what I mean?
I know nothing about golf, but in that last sentence, you tied me in, and I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah, it's not just the one thing. Okay, you know,
yes.
You gotta work one left to right, work one right to left. You know, there's a lot actually between golf and ceramics, believe it or not.
I actually think there's a lot between everything. My good friend, this guy Errol Gundez, we've sort of lost touch over the years, but I spent a lot of time at Teachers College, not as a degree-seeking student, but I just did an independent study there in my early 20s. And he was a graduate student, and his research was all about the other thing. And his thesis was that, you know, essentially all great practitioners have this other thing that they are really invested in. And their relationship to that other thing, whether it's like you're a musician and you like to ski, or you're a painter but you love to play basketball, whatever, their relationship to that other thing makes them a better practitioner of their main thing. And it also gives them the opportunity to relearn things and stay engaged. Sometimes also as a beginner, you know?
Yeah, that's really cool. What a cool concept. You know, I was trying to explain it to my wife. Like I said, honey, every time I open the kiln, it's almost the exact same feeling for me as every time I play golf.
Cool.
Because I learned something. I've been playing since I was 5 years old, you know, but I still learn something new every single time I play golf. Like, oh, wow, I could grip it like that and it'll work a little bit different, you know. And that to me is the draw. That's like you're never going to fully get it. I think ceramics for me is the same. I'm never going to fully get it. I don't know if you can in ceramics. I don't know if there is such a thing.
No, and I will say there have been times in my own work, you know, we talked about the feeling of opening a kiln. There have been times where I've opened up a kiln, and it wasn't the feeling we were talking about earlier where you're like, oh man, everything's just terrible. But I've opened the kiln up, and you look at it, and everything looks the way you thought it would look. And it looks pretty good, and you just don't feel it. It's like when you kiss somebody and it's like you end up kissing a friend instead of a lover. That makes sense. And you know, the romance is dead, and that's when I know there needs to be a shift. Like I'm always going after that feeling of being a kid and, you know, going down that big hill on my bike or dropping in on a skate ramp, that feeling in
Yeah.
your stomach, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I want.
That little pit. The
Yeah, yeah, you know,
anxiety,
you gotta
the
follow it.
fear.
It's
Yeah.
that little bit of fear, but it's like a good fear. It's excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, not to be too sensuous here, but sort of like when you kiss somebody for the first time and it's electric, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You feel that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you feel it. You feel it everywhere. So,
You know, I took karate since I was a little kid too, and I was going for
cool.
like a brown belt test 10 years ago, and I said to my sensei, who was actually Sensei Flynn from Alfred,
Oh
um,
yeah,
I
she bought
said,
some of my pots. I
Elise,
remember
yeah,
this.
she's
Yeah,
amazing. She's
she
a
was a pretty
she's a
good potter too.
badass.
Is that true? Am I
She's a
remembering that
fighter.
correctly?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember she made
Yep.
good pots also. Yeah,
Yep.
she was
She's a
badass.
tough lady.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
I was getting ready for the test, and I said,
that's
"Geez, I'm a
cool.
little nervous, right?" And she said, "Well, good." And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, because if that means you care.
Yes. Totally.
If you weren't
Yeah. Yeah.
nervous, I'd be worried. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
it's kind of like a parent who asks, "Am I a good parent?" Bad parents don't ask if they're a good parent. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
or you
Exactly. Yeah. 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 No, totally.
aren't.
And
Cool,
that's one of
man.
the
This is
things.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm having a really good time.
Yeah.
I just to tack on to that. That's one of the things that's been really cool about getting to meet a lot. And I'm not going to say anyone's name in particular when I say this, but just getting to like be alongside people that I really look up to as potters, and to be in a show with one of these people, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm really nervous." I'm like, "You're nervous about this?
Yeah.
You're so and
Yeah.
so. I have your picture on my wall when I was in high school."
Yeah. I
Uh,
got your rookie card.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And same thing,
Yeah.
like, you know, I think with a lot of musicians, like you hear a lot of
Yeah.
people, you know, they're nervous and they're in their 80s. I
Yeah.
think
That's wild.
was his name Pablo Casal, the classical cello player, really famous. I think he's been dead for a long
Mhm.
time. He's like the
Mhm.
guy who made the Goldberg variations, like really famous. They
Oh,
were
okay.
Anyway, someone asked him, why do you keep practicing when you're in your 90s? And he's like, well, I think I'm really onto something, you know?
Yeah. That's
Same
huge.
thing with, you know, Michael Simon's work, I'm sure,
Uh,
right? Michael Simon, if I were to, you know, I think a lot of people, and a lot of the people, for myself, and I think for a lot of the people whose pots I truly love, if you were going to say, gun to your head, who's your favorite potter of all time, it'd be Michael Simon. And I
wow.
remember, you know, tragically, he stopped making work because of his health in the end of his life. He's quite young. And I listened to him on Ben Carter's podcast a long
Hmm.
time ago. I mean, maybe 2012 or something like that. And
Hmm.
here's this guy who has the deepest footprint. You know, if your listeners don't know who he is, I guarantee you, you're influenced by him through osmosis. The people who you like, they're influenced by him.
Yeah.
And he just changed the game. And he said this thing, I mean, it kind of broke my heart, but also it really meant a lot to me to hear this. And he said, you know, I wish I was able to fire just a few more kilns. And Ben was like, well, why just a few more kilns? And he was like, because I think I almost really figured some stuff out.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe, right? That's the vibe of like a master, of truly that having that drive and being the guy who's changed the game, but also being so humble and so in
Yeah.
love with it that, man, if I just, you know, finally at the end of that, all that
Yeah.
time, I almost figured it out. I
Almost
almost
got
got
it.
there.
Yeah. I was that close.
And I'm sure that would have just kept getting pushed back further and further, you know.
Yeah.
But
I feel like you should always be that close. That keeps it
yes, yeah,
alive.
yeah. The carrot at the end of the stick, you know.
Yeah, and it's hanging from your hat, you know, as you're
Exactly.
trying to grab it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm teaching a workshop in Wilmington, North Carolina here in a couple of weeks, and yeah, I told my wife I'm a little nervous about that. And she said, "What are you nervous about?" I said, I want them to have fun. I want them to learn something. They're paying me to come there, you know, like, but you know, I still haven't found. I'm searching for my own love. I mean, I've made a lot of pots that I think they're okay, you know, I like them, but I haven't yet pulled one out of the kiln and gone, wow, that's a good pot. You know what I mean? I see other people's pots and I go, that's a good pot, and I don't know if I'll ever find it. Tell you the truth, I hope so.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth, man. On the one hand, you might just need to do a reframe, because it might have to do with just the way you're telling yourself you're experiencing it. That's my devil's advocate of like just
Yeah.
being super hard on yourself. Because I guarantee you, a lot of the people who we love and admire maybe never said that to themselves. And I mean, not to get all therapy couch on everybody here, but I mean, look, if you're
Yeah.
an artist, you're coming, you're trying to make up for something. I mean, maybe your mom didn't hold you enough or whatever, but we're hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
and we're trying to fill this thing. I mean, it's not a pleasant experience. I think everyone
Yeah.
imagines it being this like really beautiful thing, and it is
Yeah.
sometimes, of course, but it's a lot of heartbreak. It's a lot of disappointment. It's a lot of long hours and, being pale in the summertime because you're in the studio. And, but I will say, and this is my only point, is that just, I had to do a huge reframing in my own thinking about my self-dialogue a few years ago for a variety of reasons that we don't necessarily need to get into. And I was really, I mean, I still am obviously hard on myself, but I actually had to allow myself to even feel the way you're talking about. I was so hard on myself all the time, and I probably made great work. Like looking back at it, I'll look at some pots and I'll say, wow, that's pretty good. Or sometimes I'll even
Yeah.
go to a friend's house and they'll have some of my work and say, wow, I made this, huh? I remember those pots, and I didn't maybe appreciate them at the time. And it's only since I sort of did that internal self-dialogue stuff where I can say to myself, this looks good. Like, I'm going to be totally real. This is like very embarrassing, but I'm just going to really open up and say this. When I
Yeah.
unload a kiln and something looks really good, I legit say to myself, Lenzi, you've outdone yourself. Not every pot, but sometimes I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, you really outdid yourself today, So
That's great. You know what I teach when I teach junior kids how to play golf? I say before you hit this putt, I want you to mentally inside your head say I'm the best putter in the world.
yes, that's
Before
it.
you putt, say I'm the best. Don't say, "Oh, I might miss this," because you
Yeah.
probably will. Like,
Absolutely. This is,
let me
I
show
mean,
you.
it's the visualization and self-dialogue stuff. It's the secret to anyone who is good at anything. Whether it's,
Yeah.
and you're an Olympic athlete, you're a world-class pastry chef, you need to be able to see yourself do it correctly, in order for you to execute it. And if you say, I
Visualization.
can't do this,
Yeah.
you visualize it. If you say, I can't do it, you're not going to do it. And that's why the kids' book is Thomas, I think I can. Thomas the Tank Engine, right? I think I can, I think I can. If he was saying,
Yeah.
I can't do this, you know what? He would have gone back down the hill for sure.
Yeah.
And
I'm never gonna make it. I'm never gonna make it.
yeah, I'm not going to make it. And I got to say
Yeah.
this, like, as a guy who I've been teaching pottery now for over a decade, it's really, I love teaching people, but that's a big thing that I mean, I essentially have to come in and be like a therapist for people where they're struggling and they're just saying either out loud or in their head, I can't do this. And I say, you got to say, I think I can. And the answer to so many of the questions people have for me is exactly what you're talking about. Like when I'm trimming something and you got the wobbles, you got that hump on the bottom and you're trying to level it out. If you're trying to level it out and you're trying to anticipate it, you're just going to make it worse. And in reality, you just need to stay steady, stay strong, be even. Don't respond to all the stuff that's happening. And eventually it will, resolve itself. And the mental cue that I give myself is I just say in my head, because this is something I really struggled with when I was early on in pottery. I just say in my head, I'm really steady. I'm a rock. I'm steady as a rock. I'm an anvil. Sometimes I imagine myself being a steamroller. And people think I'm crazy. It's like woo-woo or whatever. But then I say, look, I'm sure Simone Biles does it. I'm sure Michael Jordan did it, So
Yep.
then they maybe listen to me. But
Yeah.
I think they still think I'm crazy. I don't know.
That's funny. I was teaching.
I'm not
I was
nuts.
teaching this same kid a couple of years ago, and he hit a bad shot, and he was like 14, and he comes like, he comes walking up to the ball, and I said, hey, hold on a second. I said, just sit down in the golf cart for a second. I said, let me teach you something here. I said, if you're still mad about that shot you just hit, this one's going to suck too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You can't take that back. You did that already.
Absolutely.
You're hitting 3. Just let it go. You focus yourself and worry about this moment, like kind of like staying in the moment. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On that
I was
note,
gonna
one
share
of the
this
things
before,
I
so-
always do is if I
Well,
collapse a pot,
yeah.
I always throw something different right afterwards. Because if I don't, I'll find myself kind of like I'm echoing that collapsed piece. So then I'll try and circle back to it. I don't know if that makes sense, but just kind
Yeah,
of shake them off.
I was throwing some pieces. I make these bases. The butts. I don't know if you've seen them. Just it's a pookie, right? And I use them to I hand build off of them. That a lot of my jars, the bases are a pookie, and then I build off of those. Right? Actually, no, this one wasn't. But I was making one the other day and threw it too thin, and it kind of was like flopped down like that, and I just went blah, 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 and it was I do live videos on Instagram, and I said not a big deal, and I just kind of wedged it up and down, and then just made it again. I'm like,
Sure.
but you don't go it's
Yeah.
it's okay, push it back into the middle, and I try to teach that when I teach workshops. Make something and then throw it in the reclaim bucket. Don't fall in love with it. Just make the clay. That's the beauty of clay, is you can melt this down to nothing and make another one.
I had a great teacher when I was a kid. This is before I did my undergrad. His name was Jerry Marshall. He's retired, and I really want to get in touch with him. I tried looking him up. But a really awesome potter. People ask me, if you want to really learn how to throw pots, take a class with this guy, Jerry Marshall. He was so good. Is still so good. But he had a rule that no matter how much experience you'd had before you came to his studio, you weren't allowed to keep the first 2 things that you threw there. And I loved it. I don't do that to people because I feel like people often, if I make them do that, they'll like cry or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was I want to be clear. Like, he wasn't like some whiplash, like not my tempo man, kind of like really tough
No soup for you.
the sweetest guy you've ever met. Really, just so sweet. But I love that.
I spent a couple of years at the Rochester Folk Art Guild here in Middlesex, and the matriarch there, Annie, she would say, take 3/4 of a pound and throw 50 cylinders with 3/4 of a pound, and just see how tall you can get them.
Sure.
I was like, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's just repetition.
Yeah.
I started venturing off into this, talking about, been doing these kind of florals over terracid. I'm really kind of enjoying the contrast between the two surfaces. And I don't know, people are like, yeah, that's a cool thing. I dig it. I'm like, I don't know. Who knows? But it's kind of fun the way your work can just completely change itself sometimes, I think. I was inspired by Matt Sheeman. Remember Matt's pots?
Yeah, he was a wood fire guy.
I don't know if he's a wood fire guy. He makes guitars now.
Oh, you know what? Because I listened to your episode with Ron, and I thought when you said his name, I was like, oh yeah, he made those really good wood fire pots. But I guess I must be thinking of someone else.
Yeah, no, he does really crazy florals, and it just kind of inspired me. So I sent him a picture the other day. I said, hey man, I hope you don't mind, but I'm drawing florals like yours. And he said, I'm glad I inspired somebody.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's super cool, man. I one of these days I want to take like a guitar building workshop or something like that. But it's just
makes
expensive,
really cool.
and time is,
But that's kind of like what you said. All great artists have something else they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Geez, see that? We barely touched on anything. Oh my gosh.
Sure.
We just
we've been talking over an hour, huh?
Yeah, it's an hour and 9 minutes ago. Me and Tom Kowalczyk the other day, I looked up, I go, oh my God, dude, it's almost 2 hours right now. But he was so fun. I don't know if you saw the snippet that I shared that he said I'm gonna go out on a limb and tell you here that hand builders are way superior to wheel throwers.
Oh, that's where the meme came from? I saw that meme.
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
I said, ooh, I'm gonna share that, dude. We're gonna start a rebellion.
Yeah.
I noticed a couple of things we can touch on real quick. I noticed one of your platters you had on your thing. You said "Be like water" from Bruce Lee, and I love that line. I say it to my kids all the time, and they look at me. I go, "You must be like water," and they go, "What?"
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, look, a lot of people. Bruce is one of those people that touched a lot of us out there for a variety of reasons, and of course, there's the aspect of who was Bruce Lee, and then who is the legend and the myth. But sometimes I don't care. Myths are good, and we need them in our culture, especially if they're positive. And he was a really deep cat. And have you ever seen Game of Death, his last
Um,
movie that he did?
I think so. Yeah,
Probably a long time ago. I mean, so,
probably. Yeah.
so the thing is, if you were to watch it from beginning to end, it's not a great movie because he died in the middle of it. And so like 70% of the movie is shot with doubles and stuff like that. But if you just go on YouTube, and you should do this, and everyone should do that. If I used to send this out to my students and make them watch it actually. But you should just Google Game of Death pagoda scene, and it's about 40 minutes long. And
Okay.
Bruce Lee, he had his own martial art that he devised. It's called Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do.
And
Yep.
the concept of it, I mean, you're a martial arts guy, you probably know more about it than me, but the concept was, it was sort of taking from all of these other martial arts and creating a style that was devoid of style, that was leaving form behind. And each level of the pagoda, he fights a different martial artist that is that specializes in a specific martial art. So one person is a karate master, one person the kung fu master, Dan Inosanto is the Kali, the Philippine person. And then when he gets to the final level, this is where the scene you definitely know, he gets to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he represents Jeet Kune Do. He is like formless. He
In the
has
yellow
no
suit.
style. He's sort of, he's in the yellow jumpsuit, and Kareem's, he's wearing the sunglasses, he's like semi-blind. And in order to beat him, he needs to actually like totally scrap everything, and eventually he realizes that he's like light sensitive, and opens the windows essentially. So he let the light in and shine light on the truth is the idea. But it's really deep, and that's kind of like, if I were to sort of put a pin in on the conversation about technique that we talked about, and when I was saying how what I really want is I want to be at a point where technique disappears. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's when you can really make good work, when it's not about, oh, how good are you at this thing? It's like, how good is the work?
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
to serve the pot? Is a song very good when it's all about how good you are? No, you got to serve the song,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I like to approach it. There's like a famous, maybe he never said it, but there's a really famous line by Charlie Parker where he said, learn everything and then throw it away.
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget that stuff. People just want to jump into doing the crazy buck
Yeah.
nasty.
They want to do the hard stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I get to that point where technique disappears when I'm just trying something. Like I'll just slap something together because I saw a form and I want to make it my way. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And a lot of times you'll make it and go, well, that didn't work. Or you'll go, wow, that's really cool, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that strip platter over there. I don't know. That might be cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the only way to find out is to just give it a shot,
Absolutely.
right? I mean,
Do the
why not?
thing, you got to do it.
Do the thing. I made this one this morning. This is going to be fun. I don't know if I'm going to put a rim on this one. It's like a big textured. This will be fun. I might actually put I don't know.
The sharp
rim.
rim cuts it off in a way that's nice.
Yeah. I was thinking I might put a little 1/4 inch like foot around the edge, but that might ruin it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong line right now. I don't know. It's go anyway. If it ruins it, just make another one, right?
Exactly. That's reclaim. I'll make slip out of it. That's genius. Well, I mean, we're at an hour and 15 minutes here. Let's see, what else do we got here? Stephen Coley. So, quick question: Do you normally go into the studio with an idea? Do you go in thinking I'm going to make this, this, and this today, or do you go in and go, all right, today's a new day. What are we making?
No, I do have for the most part, I do have pretty structured workflow. I definitely, how do I say this? There was a time in my life where I used to do a lot of preparatory drawing. I would draw, at the time also my work was very drawing inspired. I used to do a lot of inlay work and drawing on my pots and painting. Yeah. And so it made sense for me to do a lot of technical drawings basically. And also, watercolor paintings to kind of try and replicate glaze. And then I got to a point, maybe around 2015, where I sort of hit a crossroads with that. and this is not exactly what you asked me, but I sort of hit a crossroads with my relationship to drawing where I basically either felt that, well, sorry, let me backtrack. I felt that my ability as a draftsperson and my drawing technique and capability were starting to limit the kind of pots that I was making. And it became a limiting factor in my work. So I basically had sort of two options. Number one, really deepen my drawing practice, become a much better drawer, become a better draftsperson, really work on observational drawing, maybe go back and do some more figure drawing classes or something like that, or just stop. And that's what I sort of did. I was somebody who filled up like, 3 to 5 sketchbooks a year for a decade. And now I do still draw. And so to answer your question of like, do I go in and do this or that? At the beginning of a work cycle, a making cycle, I do some preparatory drawings, just profile stuff. And I make some notes about the sizes that I want approximately. Sometimes I'm in a more exploratory mood and I just kind of vibe it out. But then there are general sizes for certain things that I like. For example, I like a cereal bowl to be about 8 inches wide when it's fired. So that means I need to make it about 9.5 inches or whatever. And I need to use about 3.25 pounds of clay. So I do really plan that stuff out. And then I try and reserve periods where I'm kind of just exploring. But I know I'm going to explore. I know that I'm going to flush out some ideas. And there are other times where, for example, and this is actually, sometimes I'm just 3 thoughts ahead of where my mouth is.
That's okay.
Sometimes I do have a really strong idea of what I want to make in the studio, and it doesn't pan out. So years ago, about 2 years ago, my wife and I went to Italy, Sophie and I, and we had a great time. And of course, everywhere, once you become a potter, every vacation you take forever is going to be about pottery, and you're going to go to museums and you're going to seek out potters wherever you go. And it's a great way to experience the world. And one of the things that I really looked at was I was really looking at Italian jugs, from the Renaissance, but also just like country jugs. You just see these jugs hanging out on the side of the floor, like as a doorstop and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's 100 years old.
These like hip flasks that were really big. I'm assuming they came from China, but they're these sort of like ovoid pots that are probably 2 plates put together, and then it'd be like a stem, and they would have been wrapped in leather, and you'd throw it over your horse, and they'd have all these cool handles on them. So I took a lot of photographs of those kind of pots, and I did a lot of drawings, exactly what I was talking about. And I got home, I was really excited to make these pots. I was going to make sort of, not exactly recreations, but inspired by. And man, every one of them just sucked. I spent like a week in the studio, and they just looked so contrived. Because, I'm not a country potter from Tuscany in the 15th century. I'm Haakon Lenzi. I grew up on 119th 2024. At the time it was 2000, and now it's 2025. Crazy. But I knew that it wasn't working, so I put my tools down, and I said I need a palette cleanse. I need to clear my mind. And then I went in the next day, and my vibe, my attitude was, imagine that the folk process was happening inside your brain, where things get lost in translation and the lyrics get changed, and this form becomes that form, and this pattern becomes that pattern. And I made these, honestly, they're some of my favorite pots. I made these sort of squished kind of oval pots. I don't have one that I can pull up right now. Oh, you know what? Oh, I have one. It's not like the best example.
Yeah, let me see.
Let me get one for you.
Yeah, very cool.
This was sort of the form that I came up with. And this is kind of a weird one-off, because what I was doing is I would decorate this space, the sort of circular motif, and then this would be matte black, and I just did one that was just an inverted. But,
I love it.
It's sort of my kind of, like I said, like the folk process happened in my brain, and spitting it out, what happens when it gets chewed up and digested in here. And it was also, of course, we wanted a kid, and I mean, I didn't never intended them to look like they were pregnant or whatever, but
Yeah.
that also, and so
I saw you on your Instagram. You had a video of peeling off latex off of that.
Yes, yeah.
Matter series.
That was actually, so that was a different form. That was just like a picture form, but that's this sort of circle motif. I have motifs that I, borrow from history, and that's a motif that I play around with.
Latex is fun to play with, isn't it?
I have all these different bodies of work, but they're all one body of work because I'm one guy, and that's the benefit of having all these things. You can sort of just, let me put that on there. Let me take from this body of work and see how it would situate in this other body of work, and it worked out really well. So
yeah. So you're a lot of fun to chat with, and I really love to chat more. I really want to. Like I enjoy your answers a lot. Like I can see why you and Swen get along so well.
Yes, yeah.
And these conversations, to be honest with you, are really why I want to do this show, because I love hearing the artist's brain. I love hearing how you work through things and what got you through good times, hard times, bad pots, good pots. This is just exciting to me, and I think other people want to hear that. So thank you for being here today, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
Did you have Freddie Fredrickson when you were in school?
Oh yeah, Freddie was the man. I was a kiln tech for him. He had a program in the summer where you could work for him, and then you get a studio space.
Yeah, and he's my good buddy. I've known Freddie my whole life. Oh man,
so you know what? Do you see Freddie sometimes?
Yeah, I text him as I drive by and honk. I honk at his house. That was me.
I don't know if he'll remember me, but tell him I say hi. He was such a cool guy. I mean, everyone loved Freddie so much. So
he's very cool.
And now Sean is Freddie.
Yes, Sean's one of my best friends. I love Sean.
Oh man, what a cool guy.
Did you and Sean go to school together?
Sean was a graduate student when I was an undergrad. I mean, Sean was just he was the guy that everybody had a guy crush on. I mean, what a cool guy. Inventing.
He's a cool guy.
The work was so cool. He's a motorcycle guy,
he's like a pro motocross guy.
Yeah, motocross. And, I remember a few years ago I ran into him and I watched this lecture that he gave about electric kilns, and he described electricity and how electricity needs a ground, and that was sort of the basis for his work. And I was, he's a genius. What a great,
he is
great,
super smart.
What a great artist and technician.
Yeah, he's really cool. I go get my clay from Alfred all the time, and he used to run the clay shop there. But every time I go down, I walk through Harder Hall and I say hi to Angus, and I go straight to Sean's office to say hi to him. And yeah, it's the highlight of my day every time. But
I worked there also when I was a kid as well.
In the clay store?
In the clay store, yeah. That's why I stopped drinking soda, because I was weighing out, 28 grams. People would come in, they would buy one ounce of stain. And so I was weighing out 28 grams of a powder, and I was like, there's 37 grams of sugar in this soda. That's like a fourth of the can. And I kind of stopped drinking soda after that. I mean, I still have one at dinner sometimes, but
that's pretty cool.
But anyway,
I was asking about Freddie because I remember asking Freddie this question years and years and years ago, and he had the funniest answer. But I'm going to pose this question to you. You be the first one I ask, because I kind of want to ask everybody this question.
Sure.
Is how would you describe the difference between a potter and a ceramic artist?
Ceramic artists make more money.
You're a virtual high five.
So, that's both. Depends who you're talking to. I'm a potter's potter. That's how I think of myself. But sometimes it just makes sense to describe yourself as a ceramic artist. Of course, some people are ceramic artists and they're not interested in function. Some people are interested in function in a way where it's a theme that they riff off of. Like my really good friend, he is an amazing ceramist, and I think he would call himself a ceramist. Maybe not. I actually think he used to say, don't call me a ceramist, but an amazing ceramic artist and sculptor, my friend Derek Weisberg. He lives here in the city. But he's also a mixed media artist and figurative sculptor. And a few years ago, he started making pots. But they're not like, pots the way we would make them. You wouldn't like sit down and drink coffee out of them. They're about the concept of a pot, right? They're a bust that is like a flower vase or a tuliperie or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And we're in dialogue with that. So maybe you could say that's ceramic art. He certainly is a fine artist. I mean, I'll say this, that I don't necessarily consider myself a fine artist. I also don't fully recognize or fully respect or adhere to the contemporary framework of fine art. It's something that has never jived with me. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't like fine art at all, or there's no good fine art. That's not what I'm saying. But the idea that fine art, as defined by Duchamp in the 1960s, is what art is, I think is a very bizarre, very weird, really, very institutionalized idea. And particularly, if you listen to what those people who came up with these ideas had to say, they were trying to get away from rules, and these people went ahead and made it into a rule, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So, and if you look at what is art throughout history, I mean, look, Greek pots were art to the Greeks. Whatever, you name it, these things change. So I don't really identify with that concept of an artist in the first place. So I kind of just throw it out altogether.
I was trying to explain that to my friend. I was like, if I made a pot like this, I'm a potter. If I take a little baby doll head and stick it to the top and spray paint it gold, I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Right?
What I always tell my students when they get an S crack in a pot, they're like, "What do I do about this? Will it hold water?" I'm like, "No, now you're a fine artist." Or it's a planter.
Dude,
no,
that is the best.
I do love ceramic art, and there are a lot of. I don't want to. I don't want to make it sound like I think the entire concept of fine art, or that there's no good ceramic art or whatever. I'm not trying to.
No, it's an interesting line. I'm just curious how what everyone thinks of that. And I asked because I asked Freddie that 20 years ago, and Freddie's answer was ceramic artists throw their tools on the floor and potters hang them on those little nails.
That's good. I like that.
That was Freddie's answer.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, I mean, this is great. This is fun. Thank you so much.
Wait, let me do one PSA. I want to say one thing, because you said to me, give a clay piece of advice, okay?
Sure.
And I want to give a tip. This is a big one. This is the horse that I get on with all my students, and I really want to share this. Get some good tools. What do I mean by good tools? I mean high quality tools, not a lot of money. They don't cost a lot of money. They go a really long way. Not a gimmick. I mean a good tool, okay? What's a gimmick? A lot of people, my students come into class with this like $85 skateboard wheel that they put on top of their pots that they get from this guy on Instagram, but then they're using the Amazon Basics trimming tools. Get yourself a good set of trimming tools. Dolan is really good. I like this one, Dolan 511. I can never buy them because I recommend them to everybody, and they're always sold out. Okay, if you can't get the Dolan 511, Kemper, Potter's Choice 511. This is actually the same company now. Yep. And get some good tools. Learn how to sharpen your tools. Buy a $10 whetstone. Sharpen your tools. And then my other thing, and this is sort of my hill to die on as well, is wood tools. I like my ribs. I like them made out of wood. Okay, this is two versions. This is just a $5 Kemper rib. The way that this works, it's not going to work for everybody, but I have sort of smaller hands that probably fit the average sized hand in Korea or wherever Kemper's from. But this is how you use this tool, like this. Okay, and I use it on the inside to shape my pots. Really good tool. They also sell just like a smaller, rounder one if you're making bowls. And then this one, this is a dope rib.
Yeah,
it's
I love that
not
one.
very well made, but I got this profile from Bandana Pottery. They had this rib, and I was like, that's a really cool rib. And they told me they got it from Rock Creek Pottery, which was why am I blanking on their names? They're my favorite. Douglas and Rankin. And they got it from Michael Simon, and Michael Simon got it from Cardew. So pretty cool.
6 degrees of separation.
Cardew then got it from Hamada. So it's like, that's a cool thing. And I'll say this, I actually don't own any of this guy's tools. Maybe he's someone you should have on the podcast. But I recommend to all my students to buy them, and I've used them in my classes. His name is Troy Bungard, okay? Let me tell you, this guy's tools are amazing. Get yourself some ribs that are thicker, this sort of 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch rib. Yeah. This thing is like a steamroller when you're making a platter. If you're ever like trying to do something and it's like wibbly wobbly, like you're on a skateboard that's about to fall off, get a thick rib. He sells them. They're not a lot of money. And I'm going to tell you what, again, not throwing shade on these guys, but you can get a handmade tool by Troy for the same amount of money as one of these very colorful plastic ones that everybody uses, and everyone's parts look the same because they all use the same ribs from this company that's 2 words. God bless them. They make good tools. I'm not disparaging them either. But anyway, that's my thing.
That's your tip. That's a wonderful tip. I actually have a sticker up there from Troy's website. I met him at Ensika,
cool.
and I completely agree with
He
you.
makes great pots too. Don't get me wrong, but his tools are.
Oh yeah.
I really want to own. After this, I have to go and buy some now that I just shut.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna get on there and look at. I want one of those big round ribs because that's really great for the bottom of a cereal bowl to keep that kind of profile
perfect,
going.
man. They're but you can use this. This becomes flat, right? This becomes a platter if you change the angle of it. So it's just you have a lot of control with these things. If I'm ever working, I don't really throw a lot of really big pots anymore, but I always throw with a rib on the inside and a metal rib on the outside. And if I'm working on a big one, I'll use one of these guys. So.
Yep. Very cool. Well,
cool, man.
Great tip, my friend.
Pleasure.
This has been super fun. I super appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing more pots from you. Good luck with the baby. And
Thank you.
we'll have to. This is never a one-off thing. That's what I told Tom Kowalczyk the other day.
Yeah.
Come back in a year and a half, and we'll see where your work has changed and see what you've been up to.
Let's wrap. I love it.
And next time I'm down in the city, I'll come find you for some coffee.
I live right next to one of the oldest pizzerias in the city. So.
Dude. Growing up in Long Island and then moving up here, I haven't had a good piece of pizza in 25 years.
They got some good pizza up there. I mean, Buffalo has really good pizza.
Yeah, I'm still looking.
yeah, sure. It's a thicker crust up there.
Yeah. I like the thin crust. I want to hold it and have it fall down.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, bud. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again.
Take care.
See ya.
That's right.